What's going on, everybody? This is Jeff with Living in Arizona, and today we are going to talk about how Arizona can learn from what has happened in California moving forward to become a more sustainable destination and in the long term, not make some of the same mistakes that California made. So, California being one of the premier destinations in the West, it's been kind of a proving ground, but it's also been a location of failed policy, failed experiments, and just a lot of debt and high cost of living in a paradise, a place that's almost Edenic. Edenic being a place that's like a Garden of Eden in some places in California. I mean, you go to Big Sur, La Jolla, Santa Barbara. I mean, these are places that are heaven on earth. Malibu, the list goes on, even all the way up to San Francisco and beyond. But people are leaving California in the droves, and guess where they're coming? They're coming to Arizona. And people in Arizona are saying, okay, we notice a lot of people from California are moving here, but let's get one thing straight, or let's get a couple things straight before we do this. Now, if you follow this channel, you know we sometimes talk about this subject and we see comments like this. I'm going to encourage each and every single one of you to drop a comment and share your thoughts, if you so choose, about what you think Arizona can do to avoid the same mistakes that have happened in California. As you can see by the title of this article, this is on KFI AM 640. Okay, this is on their.com. California has become America's first third world state. This was written in June 20th, 2019. And you can see right here in our group, we posted this, and this is what I said. I said, this is what Arizona natives are mostly saying when they say, don't allow what happened in California to happen in Arizona. Beyond all the politics, although the politics and the policy lead to some of these disastrous things, there's also external factors that were outside of policy that led to the situation to occur to begin with. For example, why does California have so many homeless? Well, it's kind of twofold, but there's a lot more than just two reasons. But the two big reasons are, number one, if you're going to be homeless in America, why not be homeless in beautiful sunny California right there on the beach, or in a beach town destination where it's sunny? Why be homeless in New York City when you could be homeless in a place that has so much good weather? It's temperate. The climate is great. It's kind of harsh to be homeless in Arizona because it's in the summertime. It's 110, 115 degrees outside in the summer. No tree or no building is going to really be able to protect you. In California, the hottest it's going to get in a place like Los Angeles, maybe 100 degrees, maybe 102. Same deal. The other is that it's so expensive there. People literally got priced out of paradise. They lost their homes. They lost their job when the economy went upside down. And there just wasn't enough jobs that were paying enough money to keep people sheltered. And people just gave up. They said, why am I working if I can't even afford to live? So these kind of things happen, and it led to this. But if we just look at this article in general, so it's a pretty good write-up by John and Ken at staff. I can post the link in the comments below. I'll also post a link to our group in the comments below, or you can just join our group and go access the article in there also. But like it says right here, you want to know why you want to know why we're calling California a third world? Well, here's what it is. California is the epitome of failure. Let's review. Almost a quarter of the population lives below the poverty line. Another fifth are near the poverty line. Now, high cost of living and poverty line income, not going to cut it, right? California has the highest population in the nation. I think it's around 40 million. That's larger than the entire country of Canada and also Australia. So 135,000, and shocking 22% of all the nation's homeless population live in California. Which again, people moving to California to be homeless. Okay? Well, or whatever. They're on drugs. Who knows what they're on? But wait. What doesn't make sense, California is home to the highest number of billionaires in high-income zip codes. How can a state have so much of that, the extreme, and also on the other side have so much poverty, right? So millions of people have left California in the last 30 years, allowing the state to have been taken over by what they're calling illegal immigrants. So let's not ignore the fact that Los Angeles Police Station and even their city hall were in danger of the infectious disease typhus and is subject to a possible outbreak of a deadly plague. So you've seen this happen where there's so much homelessness that there's actually infection and disease on the streets that are on the verge of a plague, which could affect the average citizen who's not even homeless, because if a plague were to break out, you know how that ends up going down in history. So anyway, it's a long read, or it's not a long read, but you could see that the point that they're making across the top. Here on Forbes, they also have some points that they want to point out. Top 4 reasons why California is unsustainable. So where does this apply to Arizona? Lessons learned here. How can Arizona have a more sustainable future? What are some of the mistakes that California made that Arizona shall not commit or shall not do to avoid problem? So California's infrastructure deficit. The vast state water project was designed for a population not greater than 25 million. This affects Arizona because we're both pulling off of the Colorado River source, Lake Mead. Well, that's one of the sources. They also get their water from the Sierra Nevadas and whatnot. But being that California is coastal, they should be desalinization. We've talked about this number of times. They want to mine for black gold, oil. But how about we start going for the blue gold? How about we invest in proper blue gold water infrastructure, and that would include desalinization, taking salt water and turning it into fresh drinking water, and it can be done. Anyone who says it can't and says that money's in the way, well, it's got to be done, okay? There's just no way around it in order to have a sustainable future for the Southwest or even this part of America. So the infrastructure goes beyond the water problem. It goes into a lot of different things. I mean, they build places that are now earthquake proof in California, and that's a good thing. You saw what happened in the 1980s when the San Francisco quake happened. They learned their lesson from the early 1900 San Francisco quake, the Great Quake. So it's a big thing, and California still might not even have seen the worst of it because they say the big one is coming. Scientists have said that based on seismic activity. That's the big earthquake where they say California is supposed to fall into the ocean, half of it. It's just not a very it doesn't have a very good rap. Now, I lived in California when I was in the Navy. I was in San Diego. I lived in Central California in the San Joaquin Valley. I know what it's like. It's not all doomsday scenarios and everything. And, they are trying to build a high-speed rail, but they're millions of dollars over budget, so they haven't even got that done. They started that, 10 years ago? I remember when I was living there in Central San Joaquin Valley, they were supposed to be building it from Los Angeles to San Francisco, and they still haven't even finished the Bakersfield to Modesto or Merced line yet. Government debt. So this is a big one. So even though they've got a lot of problems and they throw a lot of money at it, they still accumulate more debt than anything. So I mean, the debt thing is a big deal. California is one of the largest economies in all the world, but the amount of debt they have, $1.3 trillion in debt, that's a lot of money. Okay, so California taxes and regulations. A lot of people just want to get the heck out of there because of taxation. So what if Arizona started deciding they wanted to overtax, let the government handle all these things? This is part of why people say don't let the government get too big, because then they get out of control spending where they start collecting a lot of taxes, then they start living lavaciously, they start spending all the money, and then it doesn't actually go to anything because it just goes to pockets because there's corruption, and projects like the rail end up going way over budget. So it's kind of good to keep things within means, and you want a government that's also thrifty, savvy, and doesn't just excessively spend. So when they start overtaxing people, they also start overspending, and then they don't live within their means, and then you end up with this big problem. And that's kind of what's happened in California, is that they just got so much money coming in because they were taxing people, but they also weren't spending it correctly, so it actually went in opposite directions even more. It made the problem even worse. So Arizona has to be very conscious of how they're going to tax the people and whatnot. And then just the California government. Arizona's government is still small. We're a state of 7.5 million people, almost 8 million people, or maybe 7 million people. I don't know. The numbers keep changing depending on who you're getting the information from. But California being at 40 million, they're a lot bigger than us. I mean, I don't know. I don't have the math, but it's like 7 or 8 times larger than Arizona. 5 or 6 times larger than Arizona. But it's an issue, and the government in California really has put themselves in a position for a long time now, and they keep electing the same people, like their governor, Jerry Brown. He's been elected twice. Gavin Newsom, he's been around for a while. So, and then if you look at some of their senators, they've got Nancy Pelosi. She's been in office so long that she's actually the Speaker of the House. So in order for California to really change its ways, they're going to have to, quote unquote, drain the swamp. There's no other way around it. You got to get the people out there that got you in this situation. They got to get out of there, and they got to bring in new fresh blood. Fresh faces. Okay, and so this government stronghold that they got in California really has caused a problem. Like I said, I'm encouraging you guys to drop comments as I'm going over things. I might miss things. I might be overstepping. I might not have my finger on the pulse. But as someone who lived in California for a little bit of time, I know about some of the problems they have. And I remember it would be so ridiculous that they couldn't even build like a water, a canal system because there was an endangered minnow. Okay, a minnow, a little fish. They stopped the whole project because of a minnow. I mean, I remember being in the central San Joaquin Valley, when there was a drought, which is actually, it was considered, I don't know if it still is considered the farming capital of America. It's they grow a lot of stuff in the San Joaquin Valley, and they needed water down there because the drought was really kicking their butt. So they had this solution to bring down some of the glacial water that wasn't being tapped into in places like the Sierra Nevadas. I don't know the exact areas. I want to say like Kings Canyon and Mineral King and all that stuff. They were getting, excess water that wasn't going anywhere, so they were going to funnel it down. Well, Nancy Pelosi and her crew comes up with this idea that there's an endangered minnow, so the whole project doesn't even go forward. And people are saying, yeah, we get it. There's an endangered minnow. Okay, but we got to live. Life's got to go on here, and we got to do what's best. We don't want to destroy the environment. No, anyone who says that people want to actively destroy the environment, live in a terrible environment, and suffocate themselves. I don't know anyone who wants to do that. Not even the most far right oil guy in the Republican Party. So it's kind of ridiculous to hear that there's a bunch of people who just want to destroy the environment for profit. Life goes on. I mean, even old man Bill Gates has said recently that some of the policies are a bit outlandish, where they're trying to slow down things because of economic progress opposed to environmental progress. But the point is that California kind of ended up in this situation because their government made these a bit what you want to call progressive decisions that ultimately crushed or destroyed their state. Now people are leaving in the droves. They're coming to Arizona, and people in Arizona are saying, if you're moving here, please, let's not bring those same policies that didn't work there to another state and restart the whole system all over again and fail this state also. Because I'm not saying Arizona's perfect. No one's really saying Arizona's perfect, but what we're saying is, okay, we knew it didn't work there. We're not just going to rinse, repeat, okay? We're going to kind of say, hey, that didn't work. We're not going to try that, all right? That's basically the mantra. So live and learn, right? That's all it is. It's like smoking cigarettes. Once we know smoking cigarettes is bad, we're not going to tell our kids to smoke cigarettes, right? Once we know some things are bad, we're not going to do it here, government policy and whatnot. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching and subscribing to this channel. You can subscribe to this channel. We've got plenty of different videos on here for you to go through. There's categories you could see, playlist, driving around Arizona if you want to see what it looks like to drive, things to do in Arizona, things to know about Arizona, comparing Arizona to other states, the housing boom, some of the wildlife we have around here. So go through here and check out some of these. You can subscribe, turn on the bell when we do live feeds, ask questions. And I look forward to reading some of the comments on this video. And don't forget, you can also join our group here and get this article right in there, Living in Arizona.